How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another Project Cars video, and this will be the last one. I was going to carry on going through the career mode, but unfortunately I'm just not enjoying the career mode as much as I thought I would. The first one, like I said in the last episode, I absolutely adored that game. I loved it. I played so much of it, it was crazy, but in this one, it just hasn't hit the mark for me, really. I mean, I have been doing some custom events, and my coins have gone up. So if you're looking to gain some coins, that you made the mistake like I did in the last episode, where I've bought something and then I can't continue through the career mode, which, in my opinion, isn't a very good way of doing a career mode, but it is what it is. Yeah, you can grind yourself up. I think the longer the event, the more coins and the more XP you get, basically. So I had 3,000 at the start of when I started recording what was going to be the continuation of the career mode, and I kind of just decided as I was driving around that I just wasn't enjoying it. And as you can see in the top right, I've got 22,000 now, so it has improved. If you're enjoying this game, and this is just my opinion, I'm not going to say to any of you watching, hey, don't play this game, because that's absolutely not the case. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with this game. It's just not for me personally. And anything I say in here is going to be my personal opinion. You might agree, might disagree. Let me know, and be nice, of course. So 22,000, as you can see through the career mode, I'll start off with the career mode as a number 1 point. So the layout of it, I understand the principles of, like most games, you've got like GT Sport, that sort of thing. As an example, you know, like most things, even in the F1 game, you start at the bottom, you work your way up. That's half the fun of these games. You're grinding your game, grinding your cars to be better, giving them upgrades like you do in this game, or making upgrades like in Formula 1 or whatever other games you might play, and then buying, you know, achieving other cars, buying other cars, and that sort of thing. For the races, there's no qualifying, there's no tyre wear, it doesn't feel like you're racing, it just feels like you're hopping on, do a few laps. Did I win? Cool. There's no, in the racer in me wants to do qualifying. I want to do all these other things, and I can't do those things like in pretty much every other race game there is, because they've taken them out. That for me is a big point that makes me not enjoy it. I love qualifying, that one lap to really get the most out of myself in the car and to improve those things. Whereas if I start mid-pack, I've pretty much started mid-pack in every race that I've done so far, other than the hot laps, obviously, but I start mid-pack. There's no I haven't differentiated in placement for the start of a race for maybe 3 or 4 places up and down. Like, it stays pretty much the same. I've never started right at the back, I've never started right at the front, which is a shame, because if you're going to not have qualifying, make it more randomized, make there be more options for you to start in different places, so there feels like there's a little bit of differentiation between the races from one to another. The hot laps are okay. Again, they're in other games. It's not for me. Similar to, like, in F1, they've got time trials in classic cars. Now, sometimes I enjoy them, sometimes I don't. It depends which car it is, but hot laps, they're okay. They're relatively easy to do once you get the hang of it. I had to do them a couple of times to get 3 out of 3 sort of objectives done. But the objective-based system's okay. I'm not a huge fan of it in some ways, but I like the idea that you have to, especially for the hot laps, you know, the quicker your time, the more sort of achievements you get. And then some of these, it says, like, you know, 5 clean overtakes in 1 second, 1 minute. Master 3 corners, that's fine, but the one that I really get frustrated at is, let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, draft opponents for 0.5 seconds. Now, off the line, in theory, you're drafting an opponent if you're right behind them for more than 5 seconds. So that one as an objective does not make any sense to me whatsoever. I think it's just in there to try and create something different, and it hasn't really done that. I've never really focused on it. I accidentally did that one at Sugo. It wasn't like I was really, hey, right, I need to draft some people now. It's a bit of a shame. Moving on to this next part of the career mode. Now, as you can see here, for this sort of David vs Goliath showdown, I don't have the car to do it. So I have to choose. Now, okay, now that I've done some custom events, I can now get that car and do a few events, and then I suppose work my way up. Hopefully I get some more coins and then carry on with the career mode. But I'm being really sort of pigeonholed into using very, very specific cars Like, I don't want to drive this 1971 Ford Escort. Some people might want to do it, but I don't want to. Maybe the 1966 Ford Mustang would be kind of cool, but it doesn't. I want to use cars that I want to use. A broader spectrum of vehicles that I can use at any given time. There's loads of cars I can use, but for this event, I can only use two. And there are two cars that, to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of. Same as the next one. You've got the Mitsubishi Lancer you can take at the start, but I don't know that I need it later on. So again, I have to buy a car. Now, the 1999 Nissan Skyline Gtr R34 is a cool car. That's something that I would use. They're one of the originals that are bloody awesome. But again, I have to use one of these cars for this event. I can't sort of improve my car to be capable of doing that. It has to be one of these cars, which is a shame. And then Road E Masters, I haven't even unlocked it. Road D is the same. I'd imagine you have to sort of bring in different cars all the way through, and that's a shame because I want to use cars that I want to use, not be pigeonholed into what the game's telling me to use. You know, in other games you have a bit more of a broader spectrum of vehicles that you can use at any given time, and I think that would really benefit this game by giving me more options. I understand at the start you have 3 options, choose that, but I don't want to be pigeonholed into using specific cars at certain times. Give me, rather than 2 vehicles or even 1 for one of the events. Now, let's say, as an example, I go into here. So this Mustang, let's say I go David vs. Goliath first, and then I actually choose the Ford Escort. For whatever reason, just because it's got better handling, I don't know. Let's say I choose the Ford Escort. I then have to grind the game even more so that I can do Mustang Rally in the Mustang. Even though I was using another vehicle against it in the last round that I did, I have to then go and purchase this vehicle for 22,000 coins to complete this objective. And then realistically, in the next one, 90s Throwback, none of those other 2 vehicles aren't even an option. I then have to go again, grind the game, do some custom events, get my coins, and then realistically, I would choose the Skyline GTR, but it is what it is. But again, 26,000, 32,000, you're not going to get that many coins from doing these 2 events after you buy those other 2 cars, potentially. I'd just like a bit more options, and just the layout isn't for me. And let's move on to the next point. Okay, so I'm going to go into a random practice session, run a random track, and the exteriors look okay, but I'd actually quite like to talk about the interior of the cars. And in general, now for me, the graphics are a massive miss in this game. I'm really not a fan. I just feel like they could have done so much more with it. Like, you even look at the mountain in front of me, it just looks like it's just kind of been plopped there. No detailing. Even on the side, it's a bit blurry. Like the telegraph poles, like it's just a bit like it's out of focus. And I've had a look at all my settings and they're absolutely fine. And then as we progress, as I drive, talking about the handling, I've driven all sorts of vehicles, race cars, road cars, in custom events. And the first thing that I don't understand is this sort of traffic-like system of where you're meant to be at the track. So this corner, for instance, it says slowing down. If you're in something quick, this corner is flat. Now, I want to be told that the corner is flat, not just... So if I brake here, I stop before the corner. If you're going to tell me where to start slowing down, make sure it's actually where I need to start slowing down, not 100 meters before that point that I need to start braking. The apex is fine, and the exits, sometimes I found the exits a bit too far to the outside. I kind of run over track limits on a time trial because I went in the middle of the sort of bollard that's in the air, and it gave me an invalidated lap, so I had to start again, which again is another thing that I just think is silly. And what had happened is, I'll try and illustrate it here. Imagine at this point now, the grass area is just tarmac, and you've got that white line. Now, I've started driving, and I've gone over this white line, but there's a wall on the outside, and you can see in the top right it says invalidated lap time. Now, on a street circuit or a road, now this is a racetrack, I understand that, but on a road, why is it that the white line is the track limit and not the wall? Surely it would be the wall if you're just on a public road, which can get frustrating. I found myself driving in the middle of the circuit just so that I didn't go over any white lines that I felt maybe were a problem for me. In general, the track limits are okay. You can kind of get away with a fair bit. And now, as we're driving around, I want to go over the handling model. In every car I've driven, the braking is so frustrating. Now, I'm going to go into turn 1 here, 5th gear, and I'm just going to press the brakes. Automatically, the instant response for the car is to oversteer under brakes. Now, that shouldn't be the case for every vehicle. It's as if like the locking mechanism that's within the game is that you oversteer. And again, I'll go into this corner again, same thing, and if I brake and I'm trying to turn, even the slightest bit too much brake, the rear just kicks out. So I end up driving around, like, every time I brake, I have to be so smooth on the pedal that realistically, if you were driving in even a road car, even if you were driving a Honda Civic Type R, as the example that I'm using in this vehicle, if I was to try that in real life, you wouldn't just see there. And then once you get to this point, it's kind of game over. Equally, the crash damage, you can just smash people even by accident, right? And it doesn't matter. There's no deterrent from hitting into other cars because the crash damage model is so unrealistic that it's so arcadey, it's too much. Now, I understand that this game isn't a sim, but it needs to have some more realism. And again, as I'm driving around here, if I resume this, just to go back onto the graphics, if you're looking around you, even the road looks like a mobile game. Like, it looks like it should be for mobile, with that sort of real, sort of unclear picture. Even like real racing on your phone probably looks better, which is something I'm not a huge fan of. I'll quit out of this because the next thing I want to talk about is the AI. Now, I had the AI on not the hardest difficulty, but reasonably quick, and I had it on really aggressive. Now, if I'm on the line, so let's say this is me here on this side, and the AI's there. I'm on the actual line that the game recommends. If you've got the AI next to you, they will just turn straight into you and smash you off. I've had maybe 3 or 4 races already, and I've not played a lot of this. I've not played loads of this game. I've played a fair bit, but not loads. Every single time I'm on the line, particularly heading into braking zones or towards the exit, it's like they're pre-programmed to not even worry about the car next to you, that you're next to them, and they just drive into you, and I get speared off and hit the wall. I have to there's no flashbacks, so I have to restart the race. Now, that in itself, the AI have to have a better understanding of where you are on circuit. You drive other games like Formula 1 as an example. It's a Codemasters game. I know Slightly Mad Studios make the game, but it's a Codemasters game after all as well. The AI in that, sometimes they make mistakes. Of course they make mistakes, and you can't program every situation in, but if you're next to them, they don't turn into you. They try and send up the inside, or they kind of back out of it if you pinch them too much. It feels like you're racing them. Whereas in this, it just feels like it's a demolition derby and I'm going to get smashed off at any given moment if I'm slightly on their line. So I find myself driving on different lines to try and not to get hit off by the AI, which definitely shouldn't be the case, which is a massive shame because if I'm racing other vehicles, I want to race them. I don't want to feel like I'm about to get smashed off because I'm on what's considered to be the actual line. Onto wet weather. Now, the AI in wet weather don't seem to have the same effect as it does on you. They just seem to, as soon as the track changes into wet conditions, I'm struggling for grip, and they just carry on doing exactly the same thing, which again is something that just doesn't make any sense as to why that would be the case. Because if I've lost grip, then surely the AI in a 66 Mustang would lose even more grip. Surely. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The whole wet weather thing really frustrated me, because I'm driving and I'm like trying to get the most out of the car, and I'm hustling, and the braking's all off, and I'm trying to trying to drive quickly without coming off. And the AI are just rolling through corners and braking late and doing all the things that they did in the dry almost identically, whereas I'm struggling for grip. So surely it should be a parallel between what the AI can achieve and what I can achieve. It should be the same. It should not be different. Again, I use F1 as an example because it's a Codemasters game. The AI in the wet, sometimes they're a bit quicker in certain corners, certain tracks, but in general, starts raining, they lose grip. You lose grip, all the same. Whereas in this, the AI don't lose any grip, and you do lose grip. So for me personally, that is something that really frustrated me. If you can program it for you to lose grip, you can program the AI to lose grip, surely. I haven't done any online races because, for me personally, online racing isn't really my thing. I prefer the career mode, the single player, for racing games at least. I'm not a huge fan of getting smashed off by people who don't want to lose. So, which not every lobby is like that, but I played a little bit last year on F1 2019, and nearly every race I was in the lead of, I got smashed off at the last corner by someone driving into me. So it's a bit of a shame. Online's not my thing, so I haven't done any online racing. The rival section is kind of cool. You've got different objectives to do, different cars, different tracks. You can go GTB, have a little look. This is what other people have done on their times. You can sort of compare yourself against them. So that section is quite interesting. Now, when you go to the garage, so Road E, I can now achieve a fair few of these because I'm driver level 2. But you go into Road D, I'm driver level 2. So driver level 3, I feel like it takes so long to get up the levels that by the time I get to Road D, I won't be able to use these cars. And again, I'm being pigeonholed almost into using very specific cars. Before, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this career mode. I did go through separate career modes on the game on my other account, and I chose the GT86, the Toyota 86 series car, and I felt like every time I just couldn't win a race because the handling was good, but the performance gain in a straight line was crazy. I couldn't keep up with anybody on a straight. Even if I got a really good exit, they just pull away. And it seems like straight line speed is a better determination of overall pace than being overall quick, having a good overall car. So even if you're not got the most powerful car, it seems like the most powerful cars always win. Which again is a shame because not the most powerful car doesn't always win. Sometimes other vehicles, you look at, as an example, the Minis in the Monaco Rally years ago, they were beating the likes of Porsche and all these guys because they were light and nimble. Just because they didn't have as much power down the straights, they were able to get the most out of the whole course. And that is the idea behind every car. You have to be able to have that balance between straight line speed, handling, braking, weight, all those sorts of things. And I don't think that they've got that marriage between all of them right. Every time I've driven a slower car in a straight line, I've struggled for pace. But every time I'm in a car with lots of power, I always seem to do really well. Even if I'm struggling through the corners, I just make it all up in a straight line. And I don't think that should be the case because the gain through the corner isn't enough to negate the straight line speed of another vehicle, and that's a shame. Next point, starting the car. I haven't been able to get a good start once. The AI get a perfect start every single time, and I haven't figured out how to do a good start. If you have, let me know, because I would actually genuinely like to know how to do it. Even though the career mode's stopping now, I just can't get over how the starts work. Always get a bad start, no matter what car I'm in. Like, I was in and this is where it gets a bit silly. Like, I did a custom event around Brands Hatch GP. I was in a GTE Porsche 911 RSR, and I've got a NASCAR stock car behind me, and they were keeping up all over the track. Now, let's be honest, a Le Mans car is going to be a lot faster around a track, like Brands Hatch particularly, than a stock car. That's fact. And in the game, in real life, it would be they just drive away, see you later. Whereas in the game, I've got a stock car catching up with me, which is just so unrealistic. Like, if I put in similar, same class vehicles, now to me, a GTE car and a stock car are definitely not in the same class. A GTE car is way higher, in my personal opinion, and I don't think many people probably disagree with that. And I think it's a shame that the classes are so muddled up. The different, like, the cars that I can use are very similar, but the cars I'm racing against are very, very different. And I've got cars that like would never be quicker than a current vehicle. Like this Honda Civic Type R would be way quicker than something that I was driving against, but the game's programmed it to be just as fast. But I would imagine if I drove that slower vehicle, I'd get driven away from. It seems like the AI have been programmed a bit oddly. The cars that get used are a bit strange, and I'm really not a fan of that personally. Now, let's say I want to put on some bodywork, track and aero package. Let's go for that. Yes, the car hasn't really changed. It's obviously been put on because I've got the aero package on. So I can go to this race and use this car now. I've got motorsport tyres on. I've got an aero package upgrade. Now, the cars available, I'm going to be racing against an Aston Martin DB11. I'm going to be racing against a Ferrari. Like, the fact that I can use my Civic is great. If I want to just make this thing into an absolute monster, then fine. But I put an aero package on it, and the tyres haven't changed. Put motorsport tyres on. I put an aero package on. There's no visual upgrades onto the car. So it's just standard. It's obviously programmed once you're in game to have more downforce or more grip or more handling or whatever it is, but I want to be able to visibly see that on my car. If I'm upgrading my car and spending my coins, I want to see that particular upgrade. Overall review from me, I'm not a huge fan. If I had to rate it, I'd probably give it like a 5-6 out of 10. It's not for me personally. If it's something that you enjoy, please let me know. If you're enjoying playing Project Cars 3, let me know. Like I said, I love the first one, but this one just isn't it. The AI are way quicker in the wet than you are. They don't seem to lose grip. You see the car behind someone move around like this and they don't come off, whereas as soon as I get a bit of opposite lock, I'm in the wall. The career mode can be fun. It's not my sort of thing personally, but it can be fun. The use of all the different cars is certainly not for me. I don't want to be pigeonholed into using specific vehicles. And when I put upgrades on, I want to see the upgrades. Like I've put an aero package on, the rear wing's the same, the front split is the same. I want to be able to see the differences rather than it just being programmed in from when I go into a race that I have more grip or more handling. The multiplayer I can't comment on. I haven't tried it. It's not my thing personally. But yeah, it's kind of missed the mark. And Project Cars, to me, it was never a real sim, but it was more sim-based than it is now. This is way more arcadey, and the marketing side of it seemed to be closer to the sim side, and I see a lot of people disappointed with it. Yeah, I'm just disappointed because I love the first one. The second one I didn't play, so I couldn't comment on that, but this one is not for me personally. If you've enjoyed it, please let me know, and if you haven't enjoyed it, let me know as well. But that is my... Oh, I really wanted to do a whole career mode of this, and I'm just not enjoying it enough to do it. And I said to myself when I started making content, for however many viewers, it doesn't matter how... I could have one viewer, I could have 1 million, it doesn't matter. If I'm not enjoying what I'm creating, I'm not going to do it. And I want to stick by that, and I'm really just not enjoying this game. And the same will be if you guys say, hey, try Grid, or I'd love to see a Grid gameplay, or I'd love to see Assetto Corsa as 2 examples. I'll happily do it. And if I'm enjoying it, it will continue. And if I'm not, then it will be a review like this. And it's just my honest opinion. I can't tell you guys how to feel about it. You can make your own informed decisions. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I've not enjoyed it personally, but please let me know if you have in the comments down below. And yeah, follow me for some more racing game content. And hopefully I'll do maybe I'll do a grid one next. I haven't really got my hands on it too much, so I think it'd be interesting to see that. And yeah, so that's going to be the end of the video. That's my review. 5, 6 out of 10 at best for me. It's not for me, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that I tried it, because I did have a little bit of fun at the beginning, but just the way the layout was just wasn't for me. So if you are enjoying my content, whether you're enjoying Project Cars 3 or not, it doesn't really matter. Please subscribe for more racing game content and F1 2020, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.